Hey Bookworms, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new, it's Sam, and today we are doing my January wrap up, which also is my part 2 of a collab I'm doing with Chelsea from Not So Secret Bookaholic. If you haven't checked out the first parts of our collab, I will link both our videos below. We both choose 6 prompts each to make up for each other's January TBR. So in the month of January, I actually had a pretty decent reading month. I did have 2 DNFs, which happened to be for 2 of the prompts that Chelsea gave. However, I did switch those books out because I really wanted to read a book for every single prompt that I was given, and I managed to do that. So let's talk about the stats. So I had 1 3-star, 5 4-stars, and 3 5-stars. So honestly, I think January was a pretty decent month apart from those 2 DNF books, which we're going to talk about now. The 2 books I ended up DNFing was All the Light I Cannot See and Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Honestly, for the book All the Light I Cannot See, which I will put up here because I cannot be bothered to go and get it, it's in another room, I just felt like it kind of got into it and then it started going into the backstory, and the book's so long that I was just kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of losing interest, and I felt like the author was just focusing so much on description, like way too much, that it just wasn't getting to the point, and I was just really bored reading it. I was really disappointed with this one because it's one of those books that, again, I predicted was going to be 5 stars, and it just did not live up to that hype for me. But plus, it's like another historic fiction that I've now DNF'd in the space of 2 months, so I'm really disappointed about that one. But anyway, I DNF'd it and moved on, and then the next one was Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I will put here. This book kind of read more like a play, and I just could not connect to any of the stories. They were done in different parts, and each story took so long just to get to the main story that I was just like, okay, the first story, maybe it's just explaining, but then it was doing it with the second one, and I was just really bored with it. Honestly, this book would be such a good play. Like, I think it'd be incredible, like, on stage, and I'd love to watch it, but as a book, I just felt like it really don't work for me. So let's jump into all the books I actually read this month, and we're going to start off with the books that I picked for the prompts that Chelsea gave, and then we'll move on through. That makes sense. So first of all, the prompt, a book with foiling on the cover, I ended up obviously replacing the book Before the Coffee Gets Cold with The Maid, because this one's got foiled on cover. I'm really glad that I picked this book because it's so good. We follow a character called Molly who works in this hotel cleaning rooms, and she actually really loves her job. And then one day she's cleaning the suite and she finds a guest dead in his bed, and her life just is turned upside down, and the story pretty much goes from there. Now, what I loved most about this book was our character Molly. She's very different from a lot of characters that I've read before. She kind of just speaks her mind and says it how it is, because that's just Molly. Like, for example, there's a scene where they're talking about the guest being dead, and they're saying that it could be foul play, but she thinks of a joke about pigs or something, so she kind of laughs and they look at her because it's just so inappropriate. She's like, sorry, I was just thinking about a joke. Or then there's another part where she's been waiting in the office having tea and biscuits just while, you know, the hotel manager's talking to the detective, and they come in and like, we're so sorry for keeping you waiting. She goes, oh, that's okay. Actually, I wouldn't mind some more of these biscuits. Like, it's just inappropriate, you know? Like, when they're struggling to say that the guy was dead, she goes, because he's dead. Like, literally, there's so many bits in this book, like when talking about the guest being dead and she's going to clean that room, and he's telling her to like keep her voice down because of freaking out all the other guests, and she's like, oh, so sorry. And then she says really loudly, I'm going to go and clean a room. No room in particular where someone died, just a room. It's just like, oh my god, Molly. Honestly, this book was a 4-star. It wasn't a 5-star, and the reason why it wasn't a 5-star was because the mystery element, it felt like wasn't really there. Like, I figured out who the killers were and what the plot, like what the reason was for killing this person pretty much early on in the book. It's more like, you know, Molly didn't. Now, I don't know if that's the author's intention, was that you guys work out before Molly, because Molly's character's definitely gullible and too trusting, and at times it was slightly frustrating because she just trusts way too easy, which is a massive part of this book. She's very vulnerable and naive. Yeah, I think that if this book would have had the big twists and stuff like that with who killed the guy and why, then it probably could have got a higher rating. It was just a 4-star. I thought it was brilliant and still excellent. It just wasn't like amazing for me. They did have like a little twist at the end, but it wasn't like an overwhelming reveal. But like I said, this is still a really good mystery. I read that it's supposed to be a thriller as well. I don't really get the thriller aspect of the book, to be honest. But I would still recommend this one if you like mysteries, because it is a really fun read. For the prompt, a 5-star prediction, I obviously had picked All the Light We Cannot See, but obviously I DNF'd that one, so I ended up replacing that one with They Never Learn. So I was going to replace it with the other option that was on the video when I was picking, which was another historic fiction, but I was just kind of worried that what if I end up DNFing another historic fiction? I'm not dealing with that. So I replaced it with They Never Learn. This book, I honestly was just like, this is going to be a 5 stars, because everybody who's read this book has absolutely loved it, and it just sounds so good. So we follow a character called Scarlett who works at this university, and she's really good at her job. However, she's got a secret. She is a serial killer. She kills bad men. But then one of her murders kind of goes wrong, and all the murders start to get investigated. We actually also follow another point of view called Carly, who is a student new to college, and she's just trying to settle in and, you know, make friends. And her roommate, who is completely different to her, kind of like latches onto her and makes friends with her. However, one day her roommate ends up getting sexually assaulted. Now, this wasn't a 5 stars, it was a 4 star. And I'm going to say what I loved about the book first, is that we follow the point of view of a serial killer. Like, being inside that serial killer's head was just crazy at times. Like, you root for her, but at the same time you're like, wait, she's crazy, you can't root for her. like did I just spin? What's that? It was just really interesting to be in the point of view of this character, of someone who believes what she's doing is right and she's killing these men. And to be fair, the men she's killing are kind of deserving, although you shouldn't take justice into your own hands. But still, you can understand why she chose these men. And reading from the point of view of Carly was really interesting as well, but for me it was definitely the point of view of Scarlett that I loved so much about this book. Not even halfway through this book we get a twist. We get this big reveal, and I mean not even halfway through, it was quite early on. That was so shocking. I did not see coming, and it just kind of all made sense. And some people say that I saw it coming, but like, I did not see this coming, and it was just shocking. I absolutely adored it. Why this book did not get a 5 star was, I felt like every single man in this story was a bit of like, was written as they're kind of not good, that they are horrible, that they treat people badly. Men just were not portrayed very well in this book, which I get what the author's trying to do, but it's like, I think there's like 2 guys in this book that were decent, otherwise all of the others were just kind of not great. One of the characters discovers like a secret. That character within hours pretty much is okay with what that person finds out, but like in reality you would not be okay in a few hours. Like, you may never be okay with what you find out, but this character was okay with it in a few hours. And there was one more bit that I was just like, they reveal this character as like got this hidden agenda and not so nice, and I think it's supposed to be shocking, but like I kind of worked out that this character is untrustworthy from like the get-go. Like, I did not trust him. However, I did like the ending of this book, like the epilogue, and how it shows the character's journey continuing with some stuff that was like, okay, I could imagine it being a sequel. But all in all, I really enjoyed this book. It's a really great thriller. It's written really, really well. We follow 2 point of views. The twist that happens was so good, and following the point of view of Scarlett was just absolutely enjoyable. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this book. Everybody who's read this has said that it's so good, and I definitely agree. I was meant to read the book Lock Every Door for a book that you were meaning to read during 2021, but you never got to. But I was suffering with really bad insomnia, so I wanted a book that had an audio so I could listen and read at the same time. So I switched that book out for 100 Days of Sunlight. So this has an audiobook, which is why I chose it, and also it's been on my shelf for a while, so it is a book that I technically was meaning to read in 2021, never got to it, and finally I read it. We follow a character called Tessa who has lost her sight after she was in a car accident with her grandmother. She's told that it should come back within 100 days, but they just don't know when. Tessa is really struggling to adapt to the whole not being able to see, which obviously it would be difficult. She's used to having like a blog post that she posts on, so her family want to hire someone to type for her, but Tessa is not having it. This is when Weston comes into it, and Weston kind of likes that Tessa treats him badly, because Weston has prosthetic legs. He lost his legs when he was younger, and obviously people always notice that about him and treat him differently, but Tessa can't see this, so she treats him quite badly, and Weston likes that. Now, I will admit that I did not like Weston at first. Honestly, he was really annoying, and it seemed like he was only doing this for himself and not to help Tessa at all. I mean, there's one bit where he goes, I prefer it when she's screaming and crying, and it's like, Really? This book gets across a really, really good message about what it's like to lose your sight and to basically be someone who has prosthetic legs, and how people do treat you differently, just how hard it is to adjust to life after you go through this stuff. It is honestly a really beautiful story. And I think that Abby did a decent job. However, this was 3 stars. I enjoyed it. It was really good. But I didn't think it was like brilliant or amazing. Like, I think it could have been better. I didn't find anything shocking that happened in this book. Like, everything that happened was pretty predictable. I did get emotional though at certain scenes. I think it was the scenes with Weston actually that I got quite emotional with. And I'm going to say that I was very put off reading this book from other people doing reviews, and I think people are really harsh on Abby with this book. People saying like it's a waste of your time, that Weston's character is kind of not nice and taking advantage. Like, there's this kiss scene and he says he kissed her without permission, and people overreact about that scene, and it's making it sound like it's more forceful than it is, and it's not the case. I just think that people should give Abby a chance and definitely read this, because it is, like I said, a really beautiful story, and the meaning in it is really important. It's not a new favourite. I enjoyed it and I'm glad I read it. I won't be reading the sequel though. I just don't feel like there's any need to. But again, I just think people are really, really harsh on Abby because she has a YouTube channel where she gives advice about writing, which, by the way, if it wasn't through Abby, I would not know about indie author. So I'm so grateful to her, and I am really glad that she wrote this book, and I'm so happy that it did so well. Obviously, you're always going to get negativity, but I would still recommend reading this one. It's a beautiful story with a really good meaning. So yeah. To continue a book in a series, and for that one I chose Good Girl Bad Blood. This is the sequel to Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I can't really say much about this book because I don't want to spoil the first one, but we follow a character called Pip who sort of investigates stuff that goes on in her town, and in this one her friend goes missing, so she reluctantly decides to investigate it, and Pip goes through a lot in this book. Holy hell. Wow. This book had a lot of twists in it, things that I didn't see coming. Like, this is one of my favourite series. Like, when I first started reading this series, I was really worried it was going to read too young. I was wrong. It is so good. If you've not read this series yet, I highly recommend that you read it. I have one more book in this series to read, and then I finished it. I'm really, really hoping that I can get to it in February. Holly Jackson is incredible at writing and making you be fully engulfed into the situation and the story, making you feel intense and just shocking the hell out of you. I adore the character Pip, and I love Ravi. Is it Ravi? I think it's Ravi. I love every single character in this book. It's a favourite, and of course I gave this book 5 stars because, I mean, it is so deserving. But yeah, I can't really say anything else because I don't want to ruin it, because, you know, this is a sequel, but I'm just going to leave it there. Next up was a book that was gifted to you. So for that one I picked The Nature of Witches. This one was gifted for me for my birthday in December, and I did not expect to enjoy this book as much as I did. So how the magic system works in this book is awesome. Witches are powerful in their season. So you have winter witches, spring witches, summer witches, and autumn witches, and in their season their magic is really strong, but then out of their season the magic isn't as strong, and if they do try to use it, their magic kind of gets depleted. We follow a character called Clara who is a witch, but she's an ever witch. Ever witches are powerful throughout each season, however her magic is not very strong, and they're trying to train her so she can be stronger because she's, you know, supposed to be a really powerful witch. And yeah, Clara is got a lot of pressure on her shoulders, and I don't really want to say too much about this book other than it is absolutely stunning. It is written really, really well. The magic system is my favourite magic system in any book that I've read before, and by the way, I've not read Harry Potter, so just feel like this book got into it. It never felt like it dragged too much. There's like a little romance that's going on in it. There's some twists that happen. Oh my god, it is just so good. If you've not read this book yet, you should definitely go and read it, because again, this was a 5 stars, and I was not expecting this book to be a 5 stars. I am so glad that my partner bought me this book and that I read it, because I was putting off buying this book for so long, and that would just been such a shame if I'd have missed out on it. Next up is a book that you saw being super hyped or talked about, and for me, this one I constantly kept seeing on my Instagram feed at the time. Like last year, I saw it being talked about non-stop, and that was Malice. So wow, this book has been talked about so much. It's actually a Beauty and the Beast. No, it's not. No, it's not. Live. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, which when I heard that, I was like, okay, interesting. And we follow the villain called, apparently it's Alice, but in the book it's about like Elise. Maybe that's just I'm just that we're not getting that. But yeah, we follow the villain in this book, and you know what is, it shows you how someone can become the villain and how someone's treated really badly. So our main character works for these women that use their powers to help the rich people, but her magic is sort of different, like her blood's green, so she kind of uses darker magic and she has no really choice. She makes money for the woman who owns this like place. And of course this book is sapphic because our main character meets Aurora the princess and they build up this friendship that does become a romance that is just, honestly, I loved so much. This book has twists and turns and it has action and it has like it has so much to it, and it's written so well that you just get pulled into the story and you just want to keep reading, turning the page. I absolutely love our main character. I felt like at points she was definitely relatable, and I read the acknowledgement on the back and the author said that was her purpose, that so everyone could relate to some part of our main character. Now, I only gave this book a 4-star because I really would have loved more of the romance between the main character and Aurora, but we don't get that much. I'm hoping in a sequel we will. But let's just talk about the way this book ended. Woo! Wow, the way this book ended was like intense. Like, I cannot wait to read the next one. I think the next one comes out at some point this year, which I'm going to get and read straight away because I need to continue the story to see what's going to happen. Yeah, I can't say anything without spoiling it, but this is such a good book. I enjoyed every single second of it. In fact, I enjoy it more than the original Sleeping Beauty story. It was just so good. Next up, we're now going to talk about the book that I did for my episode 1 of Blind Date for My Books. If you've not seen that video, you should probably go and check that out before you continue watching this so it don't get spoiled what book was picked. But if you've watched it, then we can continue on. So for the book that I unwrapped, that I chose for my blind date, for that video was The Shadows Between Us. So when I first unwrapped this, I wasn't excited. I wasn't. But I had a great time reading this book. So I will admit before we get into this that this book does not have a massive world building system, and that's something that a lot of people flawed with it, that they did not like, but the plot and the characters definitely made up for that. We follow a character who wants to marry the Shadow King so she can kill him and enroll. She intends to do this. However, she doesn't quite intend to grow feelings for him. I'm going to leave it like that because I don't want to ruin this. There is a lot of action. Our main character is so fun to read from. She's very like out there and does what she wants, say what she wants. She doesn't act like a typical woman should act, I guess. And the way she dresses and stuff like that is kind of like different to how other women dress. However, people start copying her once the Shadow King chooses for her to come and live in his castle with him, or palace, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. Also found out in that video this is going to be a sequel. I'm not complaining. I'm definitely going to read it because I would love to read more from these characters. Now, I only gave this book a 4-star just because I felt like the ending was kind of a typical ending. Like, it was super surprising. But again, like I said, it was a 4-star. I still think it was an excellent story and had the best time reading it. The next 2 books were just random books I managed to... Oh my god, my voice went weird. The next 2 books are just 2 books I managed to fit in at the end of the month. And that one was... Well, the first one. When you get the chance, this one is said to be like Mammy inspired. We follow a girl who wants to find her mother, but she has no idea who her mother is, and she narrows it down to 3 different women, which you get the whole Mamma Mia vibes. It's just gender reversed. Obviously her dad has no idea that she's doing this, but she kind of wants to find her mother because her dad don't want to let her go to this musical school in California, and she thinks finding her mother will help. However, a lot of stuff happens on the journey through this book. Our main character is very obsessed with like Broadway, which is where the whole musical side comes into it. It was a really fun read, and this is the first Emma Law book that I read. It was only a 4-star. At first it was almost a 3, but I think as the book went on, it definitely improved. And there's nothing wrong with this book, like I said. It was just super fun to read. Had a great time. I loved our main character. I think her name's Millie. Yeah, Millie. I loved Millie. She's just very dramatic and a bit of a drama queen. Yeah, this book was really, really fun. And if you have not read this one, I definitely recommend it, especially if you like musicals and Mamma Mia, then my cat just wobbled my camera. But then definitely go and check this out. Last up is No Exit, which I gave 5 stars because, like, oh my god, this book is so intense and fast paced. Like, there's moments where I was like, okay, I need a moment to like work, just you know, see what I mean, I can't even speak. Like, let myself come to terms with what's going on. Our character Darby is incredible. Some of the stuff that Darby does in this book is insane. Like, God, she is so amazing, and she's one of my favourite characters now because you go, girl. Like, the stuff she goes through. If you've read this book, you know. What this book is about is our character Darby has to pull over at this rest stop because there's this big storm. Everyone's pretty much trapped here. So there's 4 other people. Yeah, there's 4 other people. And they're all trapped here with no cell service. No way to get out because the roads are like snowed them in basically, and you won't be able to drive. And then Darby finds a little girl locked in a cage in a fan. And she has to pretty much work out who's kidnapped her and how to get her out of here. And things go down in this book. There's so many twists and turns, and there's a lot of violence in this book as well. But oh my god, this is so good. Everybody raves about this book, and I understand why. I do not like this cover, by the way. It's so ugly. But I couldn't get the other cover, and I really wanted to read this book, so we just make do. But if you've not read this book and you like thrillers, you should definitely read this book. Like, read it. Just read it. Also, when I was reading this, I said to my partner this would be a really good movie or series, and apparently it's going to be a movie. So, I'm predicting stuff now. I don't know if I'd watch the movie because it's going to have a lot of violence, because there's a lot of violence and gore in this book. But I don't know. I kind of want to. But yeah, this was my last read of the month, and it was a 5-star. So I literally ended the month with a 5-star read, which is brilliant. Honestly, although I had those 2 DNFs, I feel like I still had a great start to January. And my books are falling. Okay. Oh god. So yeah, that's my January wrap up. And like I said, it's a great start to January. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Subscribe, it'd mean the world to me, and turn on that notification bell so you get alerted to when I next upload. And until next time, bye!